Before we begin today's video, I need to give you a content warning. It's a dreadful case of a cyclist that resulted in the loss of a life. Today we're going to be talking about the story of Madison Jane Leiden, a young cyclist who lost her life on the busy streets of New York City. This young Australian was 23 years old. She was on a trip that her parents described as the trip of a lifetime. And she wasn't just a statistic. She was a person with aspirations. She had a life ahead of her. She was a daughter, a friend, a sister. Her friends described her as someone that lit up the room, and she was planning a life ahead of her as a psychologist, something very close to my heart, as my wife is a clinical psychologist. Now let me take you back to August the 10th, 2018. Madison is in New York City. She's in Central Park West, riding on a bike lane, and traffic to the left and cars to the right. Now imagine she's this young, beautiful woman coming out from Australia, finished her degree and enjoying this wonderful time in New York City with her friend. But at that moment, a livery cab was blocking her path, blocking the pathway, blocking the bike path. And in that split second, she had to make a choice between the livery cab in front of her, the blocked path to the right-hand side with the parked cars, or the traffic on the left-hand side. And tragically, as many of us do, she chose to swerve past the livery cab and into the traffic, unaware that there was a sanitation truck coming through, which hit her. Later it was found that sanitation truck driver had empty cans of beer and was actually under the influence. This impact resulted in the loss of Madison's life. And tragically, Madison's death was not an isolated incident. That year, there was a significant increase in the number of cycling deaths in New York City, and it underpins the systematic issues that are happening for cyclists in these busy urban environments. Tragically, Madison's death didn't just affect her friends and her family, but rippled through the whole cycling community. And by looking at these cases, these individual cases, reminds us of just how vulnerable cyclists can be. And this is where I'd like to talk about something very interesting. There's a new technology called Hawkeye. Now, I'm not saying that in this particular case we could have definitively prevented such an accident, but I think it's worth having a look and discovering whether it could have potentially helped. Now, Hawkeye is like a second pair of eyes, looking behind the rider and warning them of what's coming up behind them, giving them a heads up of what the traffic is like behind them, because they're riding and looking forward. And that might give the rider just a few more seconds to react and respond. I just hope that perhaps this technology can help prevent some similar accidents that may have occurred to someone else. So what is Hawkeye? Well, it's a camera-based AI solution that fits to the back of a bicycle and detects hazards coming up behind the rider. It presents them on their cell phone in front of them, so they have a full situational awareness of what's happening behind them. So it detects cars and trucks and other vehicles, and it actually illustrates to the rider those things which are hazards, giving them a full situational awareness. They're looking out front, glancing down at their phone, and they're seeing these hazards coming up behind them, and that can give them a chance to react and respond. Now, this is a hypothetical case, of course, but could it have helped Madison in this case? Look, cycling safety isn't just about devices. It's about infrastructure. It's about protected bike lanes. It's about enforcing the laws and people's behaviour when they're driving. All of these things can go to contribute to safety, including innovative devices. This isn't just about cycling safety. When we think about cycling safety, we're actually thinking about people's lives. We're thinking about compassion and empathy and trying to move forward in a positive way for positive change. So as we wrap up this video, I'd like to share a quote from Madison's close friend, Katie. She was incredibly intelligent and so full of life. She was so beautiful inside and out. And that's how I'd like us all to remember Madison Leiden, beautiful inside and out, and her story could go on to save lives. So thank you for joining me, and if Madison's story in any way inspires you to improve safety, particularly cycling safety, then I think maybe, just maybe, we're on the right track.